The rise of an empire. To understand Mansa Musa, you need to understand the Mali Empire. In the 14th century, while much of Europe was struggling with famine and political instability, West Africa was home to one of the most powerful and organized empires in the world. The Mali Empire stretched across parts of modern-day Mali, Senegal, Niger, Guinea, and northern Nigeria. It controlled something the entire medieval world desperately needed: gold. At the time, West Africa produced nearly half of the world's gold supply, and Mansa Musa controlled it. Not just the mines, but the trade routes that moved gold across the Sahara Desert into North Africa and Europe. If gold was power, then Musa wasn't just powerful, he was untouchable. How he became king. Mansa Musa came to power around 1312. According to tradition, his predecessor, Abu Bakr II, left on an expedition across the Atlantic Ocean and never returned. Musa became emperor, or Mansa, meaning king, of a rapidly expanding empire. But he wasn't just inheriting wealth, he multiplied it. He strengthened trade, he stabilized governance, he expanded influence. And then he made the journey that would make him legendary. The pilgrimage that shook the world. In 1324, Mansa Musa decided to perform Hajj, the sacred Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca. But this wasn't a quiet spiritual journey. This was a statement. Historical accounts describe a caravan of around 60,000 people, thousands of soldiers, officials, servants dressed in fine Persian silk, camels, each carrying over 100 kilograms of pure gold. Imagine the scene, a golden procession stretching across the Sahara Desert. When Musa arrived in Cairo, he gave away so much gold to the poor, to scholars, and to leaders that the value of gold dropped. Inflation spread through Egypt. The economy struggled for years to recover. One man's generosity destabilized a market. That is scale. A scholar king. But here's where most people get it wrong. Mansa Musa wasn't just a man who spent gold. He invested it. On his return journey, he brought architects and scholars back to Mali. He funded the construction of mosques and schools. He transformed the city of Timbuktu into a global center of learning. The University of Sankore in Timbuktu became one of the most respected centers of scholarship in the Islamic world. Students studied mathematics, astronomy, law, theology, and science. At a time when parts of Europe were entering the early stages of the Renaissance, West Africa already had intellectual institutions thriving in the desert. Let that sink in. The map that proved his wealth. In 1375, decades after his death, European cartographers created the Catalan Atlas, and right there on the map was a crowned African king holding a massive gold nugget. That king was Mansa Musa. Europe knew about him. The Middle East knew about him. His wealth was so extraordinary that it became legend across continents. Was he really the richest ever? Modern economists estimate his wealth would equal hundreds of billions of dollars today. Some even argue it would surpass modern billionaires. But the truth is, it's almost impossible to convert medieval empire wealth into modern numbers. What we can say with certainty is this: no individual in history has controlled such a large percentage of the world's gold supply at one time. That's not hype, that's historical scale. The decline. Mansa Musa died around 1337. After his death, the Mali Empire slowly weakened. Internal struggles, shifting trade routes, rising rivals like the Songhai Empire. But even as the empire declined, his legacy didn't. Why this story matters today. Mansa Musa's story destroys a dangerous myth, the myth that medieval Africa was isolated or underdeveloped. The truth is this: it was wealthy, it was connected to global trade, it was intellectually alive. And at its center stood a ruler whose generosity reshaped economies, not because he tried to impress the world, but because he believed in faith, power, and legacy. So, the next time someone says the richest man ever was a tech billionaire, remember the emperor who carried so much gold across the desert that history had no choice but to remember him. Mansa Musa, the man who was simply too rich for the world to handle.